So I'll welcome everybody to this month's webinar. We're discussing the new Canvas user interface. The changes to the user interface are limited to the browser version of Canvas, so these won't be reflected if you use Canvas for any mobile devices, for example. The intention is that these changes will make Canvas easier to use on a wide range of screens, including sometimes you might be using a low resolution classroom projector or small monitors, laptops, tablets, phones, for example. Most of these changes are visual, but they can be a bit surprising as well. And so I wanted to discuss that. And as a frame of reference, um, I use a 20.5-inch monitor for my primary monitor, which is 1600 by 1200 pixels, 1600 pixels wide by 1200 pixels. And if I hop back, this is the user interface that you are accustomed to seeing. You might see it a little bit bigger, excuse me, but you'll notice that our monitors these days are wider than they are tall. My monitor happens to be about 1600 pixels wide, so it's much wider than tall, 1200 pixels tall. But if you're in a browser, then you have tabs at the top, you have the address bar, um, any bookmarks that you might have. If you're in Canvas, then you have this Canvas navigation, the bar right there, that row. If this is your primary monitor, then you might, if you're on Windows, you'll have the Windows taskbar at the bottom. So there's a lot of visual elements competing for the height, the real estate height-wise on our monitor. And so the new user interface is designed to better utilize the width of our monitors and give us more room to work with in terms of height. And they've also designed this with a mind towards responsive design. And what that means is that sometimes the width of a browser window might be reduced, and so the content should adjust accordingly. Here I have an example of this image shows the various types of monitors. You might have a very large monitor. It might be 20 inches to 31 inches. Some people even might use a 55-inch TV monitor or TV as their monitor for the computer. Other people might use laptops, tablets, or smartphones. And if you're on a smartphone, a smart device, you won't be able to have obviously the same real estate as you will on a large device, and the content should adjust accordingly. And so this new user face with Canvas is intended to accommodate that by better using the width resolution on the monitors. So the navigation bar that typically is at the top, you'll have the dashboard link, you have your courses, grades, calendar, you have settings, inbox, logout. All of that is now on the left-hand side of the screen here. And everything collapses. And when you're in the course, then this navigation bar will continue to be on the left-hand side. When the width of a browser window is reduced, then the right-hand sidebar will, on this dashboard, it'll fall beneath these main components. And so if I were to demonstrate that as I shrink down the size of my browser, then you can see these to-do lists, the coming up, everything falls beneath these elements right there. Much of this is still the same on the dashboard. You still have a to-do list on the right, which is faculty. These are the things that you'll need to grade. You'll have a coming up list with the things that, the grades that you will need to, or the assignments that will be due soon that you will need to grade, a link to your calendar. Feedback would be if you're a student, then you'd have feedback there. The view grades link that typically was up at the top of the screen is now in the bottom right part of the screen. So if you're an instructor, then this will give you an overview of the grading for your classes that you're teaching, including a summary of how well your students are doing on average. If you're a student, then this will show you individual grades that you receive on assignments for courses. And also for students, the to-do list will be, these are the assignments that you need to complete. Coming up, well, these are the list of assignments that will be due soon, within the next few days. And so for faculty, these are things that you need to grade and keep in mind. So much of this is the same, but there are some changes. So the dashboard link, you can either click on the icon up in the corner there, or click on the dashboard and it'll take you to this dashboard page. Instead of what we're accustomed to, the recent activity, which is still on the page, it's just toggled. You can toggle it on and off. We instead have what are called cards. These are our course cards, and they're different colors. They have the title of the course. You can see all of the elements of the course, and if there's new content, for example, somebody participated in a discussion, then you'll see the icon there. Now, if you don't like this view, you can toggle to the old recent activity view as well, and this will give you the main things, the announcements, conversations. You can toggle this on and off, and you can hide these, for example, if you want to get rid of those, and then toggle them on and off. So this hasn't changed, and if you like this view, then you can set it to this view. But you also have this course card view, and you can edit these course cards. So these right now are the active courses, or the courses that you favorite, and I'll show you how to favorite in a second. If you click on these cards, it'll take you to the course, or you can also click on, in the corner there's an edit button. When you edit, you can choose a nickname for the course. For example, sometimes the course names are a little complicated. Alphanumeric code, the section, it might say pro seminar and fill in the blank topic, but you know it as the EdTech course. So you might put EdTech, for example. And you can change the color. You can select any one of these colors. If you also happen to know a particular hex code that you want to customize that color, then you're welcome to do so. And if you know the code, you just paste it right there. For those who don't know what those are, these are HTML color codes, where every color on the internet has a value. It's a 6-character alphanumeric combination of digits and alphabet, and you can find those online. If you get the color that you want, then you can go ahead and paste that. Here's the hex number, so I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'll put it over here, paste that, and apply it, and so you can customize these colors if you don't want to choose between the defaults. Or if you like the defaults, then you can just choose a default color, and that way you can distinguish your classes one from another. And I'll mention that for these courses, if there are any elements in the navigation that you've hidden from the view of students, then those will not appear here. For example, I have a class where I have students, I give students access to announcements, obviously, and an assignments page. But for this course, I don't have a discussion link, or I don't give them access to files. In this course, you can see they have access to announcements, assignments, discussion lists, and course files. For some of my courses, I create a course files page within the course home, and I link all of the relevant files that they'll need in the course on that page with hyperlinks that they can download the materials, as opposed to give them content to the entire files for that course. But that's something that you can choose to do or not. But if you hide a page in the navigation within the course, then that icon will not appear here. And reiterating, if there's new content, then you can see it on the recent activity portion of the dashboard as well. So I'll go through the left-hand navigation. It's very similar. It's a little more graphic than the old one was. We still have the courses. Grades is in a different place. We have calendar. Profile and settings are both under profile now. We'll have an inbox and a logout and a help menu. So if you click on your icon, your avatar here, it takes you to an account page. And this is where you can change, you'll have an option to change your avatar or log out. You have access to your profile, settings, notifications, files, and these pages, for the most part, they should look very similar to what you're used to. You'll notice in the upper left-hand corner, there's a hamburger collapse menu looking thing. You can hide that, or you can use that to toggle on and off, and that's the same in the courses as well. If you're on a page, then that just gives you more width real estate to work with. And so you can access those here. If you're an admin on Canvas, you can access that information here. Dashboard takes you back out to the dashboard, as does this icon right here. And then your courses, instead of hovering over and having access to your courses this way, you click on courses, and any course that you have favored or put a star next to it will appear here. These will be your active courses that you're teaching. And you also have access to all of your courses, a list of all your courses. So if I click on all courses, this is all of the courses I'm enrolled as a teacher, as a designer, observer, student. That list will be right here. And there's a star next to the list. And if I click on that star, then that will populate it. I'm not able to click on it now. There I am. And you'll see the course name, the full name, the nickname, and that's the name that in the dashboard, if you chose a nickname for your course card, that will appear here. The term, your enrollment, is the course published. All of that information is here. And for past enrollments, you'll have to scroll down to the bottom of the page and you can see the term, what you're enrolled as. And so now as I click on here, you notice I hit start, ask an ID, and so now that appears in my favorites menu. After you're done teaching a course, you can unstar the course to hide it if you don't not need it anymore. If there's a course that doesn't show up here that you would like there, then you would just come over here and give it a star. And so I'm going to unstar that, ask an ID, and now you can see ask an ID is unstarred once again. And so let me show you real quick how to what it is to rename a course. So I'm going to go ahead and star the Ask an ID, and that will also give me a course card on the dashboard page right here. And so the name is Ask an ID. Suppose I wanted that to be labeled ID 101. I'll go ahead and apply that, and I'll change it to orange, ID 101. And now when I click over on all courses, then Ask an ID is down here, and the nickname appears here in ID 101. Now, why it just pushed it down to in the middle of the eyes, yeah, don't ask me that question because I don't know. You also have access to your calendar. And again, this is a static navigation bar that you will be able to see in all of your courses. The calendar functions very much like the old calendar, only this time with the navigation on the left, you have more real estate, more vertical real estate. And so if you remember the other calendar, you had to compete with this this horizontal navigation bar, and you had to scroll down, and now it should fit better in your screen. And just a quick overview, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the calendar functions, but there are various views that you can do. You can have a weekly view, which for me doesn't do much good because most of my assignments are due midnight throughout the week, and so the week doesn't help me much. I like the month better, and I can customize the color of the calendar items here by finding that item on the right, and then click on those three dots, and I can choose one of those default colors, or I can go on the internet and I can browse a custom color. For example, maybe a purplish color. I'll go ahead and copy that, and I can apply that, and you can see that change reflected there. Now, a tip that I'll give you, these are two different shades of purple, and I would recommend that you really contrast your colors so that there is no mistake at which course you're looking at. So for this one, I'll choose a pinkish color, and so you can see that contrast. And you can also toggle courses on and off. If I click on this button here, then it just shuts off that course. Not that the course doesn't exist, but on the calendar, I can focus on one or two courses or view all of my courses at the same time. And I can also choose an agenda view here. And this is laid out more like a syllabus. It's going to progress sequentially throughout the remainder of the term according to the date, only showing the upcoming assignments, not past assignments. Color-coded by class, it shows what time and date. And I can toggle these as well. If you have another calendar system, there's a calendar feed button in the bottom right-hand corner. And so if you use Google Calendar, if you use Outlook, and you want to import this calendar, then this would be the link that you would use. And you just follow the instructions on your calendar page. And so this is the in and outs of the calendar. Inbox functions very much like it did before. A little better use of the real estate here. And it's hard to see down at the bottom here because since I'm in a beta version, since this release doesn't get pushed out until this weekend, I get that bar that appears. There's the help menu down here. And this is the same help menu that typically is in the upper right hand corner. You have the ability to search Canvas guides for any question that you might have. If Canvas is misbehaving, then you can tell the tech people, give them a detailed description, tell them how it's affecting you. If you do have something that is quite an extreme critical emergency that you're shouting on the internet using all caps, then go ahead and let them know, and they will respond within the hour. We have 24/7 help, and we have all the help that we need. We can solve this problem. You can also give them a call, or you can chat with the Canvas support, and they are very, very responsive. I would say you just put your name, your credentials, and start the chat, and somebody will be on, even at 3 in the morning, they'll be on to help you out. You can ask the community. We are part of the Canvas community, and other users from other institutions are as well, and so we can share ideas and talk about troubleshooting or how to implement certain features. So go ahead and utilize that as well. A few things that I wanted to share. For one, I want to show you what this interface looks like from a student perspective. It's not much different, but I'm going to go ahead and masquerade as a student for the moment. They're going to have a dashboard that's similar to yours with cards of all of the courses that they're registered, and of course they can toggle recent activity with the course cards as well. Their to-do lists are assignments that they need to complete, as well as assignments that are upcoming. If they have received feedback, which are grades in the grade book, then that feedback will be here, and every one of these elements is hyperlinked, so clicking on that will take them right to that page. When they click on courses, they can see all of their courses, including the courses they're registered and their groups. If they are part of a group in your class or part of the program, then they will have a group tab right here where they can see all of the groups that they belong to. They'll have a calendar that's very similar to yours. One thing to note is that every person who has an account with Canvas has access to a personal calendar within Canvas. And my student here, my test student, is called Dummy Student, so his name is Dummy Student, and he has a calendar called Dummy Student. If you wanted to create an event that's only for him, for example, reserve a time to study for an assessment or meet as a group or anything personal, then he can create an event. He would put the title, the time, what the date is, a location, and then which calendar. Now, as faculty, you will have a list of all of your active calendars, all of the classes you're teaching, and then you'll have a personal calendar as well. And this is a calendar that students cannot see, and you also can't access your student calendars. And so go ahead and choose that. There are more options if you want to really edit the description, and then click Submit. And everything on the calendar is drag and drop. And so if you need to change the date, and that goes for assignments as well, if you need to change a date, then you can do that and it'll be reflected throughout the course. And if I need to go back and edit this assignment, then I can do that. The more options takes me to an actual content page where I can use a rich text editor and fill in with more detail. And so this is what the student view looks like. Now, one thing I'll mention is in your classes, I'm sure nobody does this, but in the navigation in your classes, you don't want to hide the grades tab right here. It is possible to hide these to reorder them, but for the most part, you don't want to change them too much. You want them fairly standard, and you don't want this hidden. Otherwise, in order for the student to access the grades for the course, they would have to go all the way out to the dashboard, and they would have to find that the view grades in the dashboard, and that's a little bit of a hassle. We want to make it easier for them. So I'm going to go ahead and stop masquerading as the student and get back to our view here. Excuse me. So let me look at if anybody has questions, you can go ahead and ask those in the questions box here on GoToMeeting. Otherwise, this is the content that I wanted to go over. I know that this is visually this is very different than what we're used to, and it can be a bit surprising, but ultimately this should really help help our process, help our navigation process, better utilize the real estate on our screen so that we don't have to deal with limited space on the screen. One last thing I wanted to mention to you is when you're in a course and you go to the grades tab, oh, and by the way, the navigation that used to be on the left-hand side of the screen is now, let me hop over to a course. This navigation is still there, and now it's right here, but you can toggle that on and off. And so you have better, you have good use of width. Most monitors today are very wide, and so that shouldn't be a problem. If you're in the gradebook, then that navigation is by default toggled to give you to optimize your horizontal space, because gradebooks are very horizontal. And don't worry, this is a sample course. None of these grades are real. So if there are any FERPA police on the call here. So by default that's toggled, but you can untoggle that if you want to navigate to other parts of the class as well, if you need to go to a discussions page or whatever. So you can toggle that on and off. This is stationary and static. And so I can go ahead and field questions. I promised you that this would be about 20 to 30 minutes plus any questions that you have, and this is the content that I want to go over. If you have a question, either type it in the question box there, or you can raise your hand within GoToWebinar, and I can see that and unmute you if you would like to talk through your question. So I'm not seeing a flood of questions come in. If you don't have any questions, then this is all I had prepared for you. We do have a guide. There's a handout. If you notice on GoToWebinar, there's a PDF. It's called New User Interface Document with the date from 2 days ago. It's a PDF, and it'll guide you through the main overview of these pages as well. And we have a link. Let's see. Let me share in the chat window here. I'll share a link that has a video overview of essentially the content that I covered so that you can go through that. It's a storyline file that one of our instructional designers created for us, and we'll be updating that periodically as Canvas from time to time they make upgrades to the user interface, and so our training videos will reflect that. Other questions? If not, this meeting has been recorded, and so I will make that recording available. You should have information as well on your, well, students have information on their gateway. We'll be making global announcements. You should have received PDFs and walkthrough guides from your either your department chairs or deans, and we'll continue to make those available for your reference. And so last call for any questions. If you have just raise your hand or type it in the chat window. If not, I will stop recording the session.